Leadership Council, and first of all, I completely agree with Paul. I think what he's saying is best practice, and not just best practice in a theoretical way, that's what works. But 25% of all high potentials will actually never truly realize their potential, is what this survey showed. And 27% are at a very high risk of derailing themselves from their career paths. And the signs of that start showing when people become arrogant, lose their humility, start what we call a very strong sense of entitlement. And so adding on to what Paul says is, I think that for the while that the high potential is with you, and I think that that's a critical factor, a high potential is not going to be with you forever. But for the while that he's with you, he's going to value very much any coaching that you're going to give him to make sure that he doesn't derail. If this person is a high potential person, he's thinking, he knows what's going on in his career, and if he understands he's about to derail and you're going to help him behaviorally, I think he'll value your company even more. But I think what Paul says is right, people will leave. So we have to start planning our workforces for the 4-year cycle. That's the response.
One last question. My name is Naman Alam. I'm representing Ingro Foods. I would like to address this question to Uzma, but as you said in your presentation and in the discussion that if you lose an employee at these times, you're actually losing it to a competition. What are the key practices to retain employees in these difficult times which have been adopted by Nestle? Could you highlight a bit on that?
Sure. And you're from Ingro Foods, so hello, competition.
That's why I asked you.
No, we respect you deeply. I think that's something that is important to say. It's good to have an ethical competitor in the field and people who know what they're doing. Competitive advantage, like I said, is something that you have and that your competitors cannot easily replicate, and truly people are a competitive advantage. Do we want to retain all of our people? The answer is no. And sometimes that's not what people want to hear from an HR professional. We don't want to retain everybody. We want to retain at all costs, so to speak, Talia, help me, 100 people? Out of the 2,300 people we have, we've identified about 100 people in the organization who the market management team, meaning the management committee, is going to take a personal interest in. All right, so you're going to have this pool who we say critical competitive advantage. We will develop them, we will grow them, we will make sure their individual aspirations will be taken into account when we're deciding what our business needs are. But the days of saying we want to protect every single process operator, every single brand manager, it's just not sustainable. It also doesn't make sense. All animals are not equal, huh?
That's fine, but what are the practices that you are actually implementing to retain those 100 people that you've identified?
That would be our competitive advantage.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I know there's a situation of two competitors here. But from the standpoint of being very simplistic, I feel that HR has a role to play for sure, but the business has a bigger role to play. If the business, as Paul has enunciated before, is a business which is growing, a business which has protected its brand equity, a business which is protecting its market share, a high potential would not leave their business. Because the hypo, believe you me, is also very intelligent. So he or she knows what is the market potential of that person if he or she stays with the same company. If anybody else were to make maybe a 20% higher salary offer, a hypo is not going to leave because of these reasons, because of the adulthood and the manner of the company he or she is working for. The other part now is what HR is going to be doing. And I think your question alluded more to that, what HR should do. To be honest, HR just has to be honest in terms of what is the career path that the company can realistically offer to a hypo. Hypos already are treated as jewels. So if you were to convert a jewel to something else beyond a jewel, maybe a black diamond, well, that's maybe not possible in these hard days where you're harder for cash and all. But yes, they have extra something coming their way in terms of the exposure that the company should provide them. A retention bonus that companies usually provide to their hypos, and the performance bonus which Hypo is obviously entitled to because of his or her performance. So these are the extra bits that already go the Hypo way via HR processes. Beyond this, HR can't do much. And as my colleagues had just enunciated, and they were saying, and I wholeheartedly agree, a certain turnover in Hypo is good, because what you're doing is you're sending out ambassadors to the industry, and they're going to be talking good about your company. That's one. The other part is, if you have, and excuse me using the term, if you've juiced the intelligence of a Hypo for 3 to 4 years, that's good enough. He or she has paid up. And if somebody has thrown that kind of money at him or her, great, because you cannot retain somebody who is bent upon leaving you for an X amount of dollars, or for a foreign posting, or maybe for a CEO position. So that's what Hypo management from my standpoint is. HR has a role, definitely, but business has a bigger role to play in managing of Hypos. Thanks.
Let me add something to that. There is only so much you can pay to the high potential people. And money can't buy everything, as we know. We have been earlier talking about engagement, employee engagement, and to engage especially those high potential people in more than one ways. We talk about engaging them economically. That's what we have talked about earlier. But how about engaging their minds and hearts and spirits? And HR can play a role in making that possible by way of helping them increase their sense of belonging, to increase social ways of interacting of people between themselves, and then also doing community work and engaging employees in that as well. So there is a whole lot of ways that we can engage employees in more than one ways.
May I add one thing? Well, we have been talking about this economic downturn, and we have been talking about retrenchment. And so obviously, the job hasn't gone away, or rather, not all of the job has gone away. And the high potential people, basically, as everybody has said, that they is not looking for money or instant reward, but what they are more looking, they're like performers. They need applause, they need recognition. And one way of doing that is to increase their area of responsibility. And that will definitely engage them. And that will give them the incentive and the challenge. And you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone at the same time.
I just would like to thank the rest of my panelists for using my company name so many times.
So, thank you very much. I'd just like to say a brilliant question there from the gentleman there, because it drew responses from each one of these very respected and esteemed panelists. I would just like to say once again, thank you very much to all of the panelists. I think some very interesting insights have been shared today about how the HR function can respond to the challenging environment, to the global financial crisis. I think it's fair to say that the crisis is not gone just as yet. So in this time, I hope that some of the suggestions that have come have provided very good food for thought for many HR professionals here. And I hope that this will help them, this will be of use to them, that they'll be able to go back to their offices and actually take some of these suggestions forward. So I'd like to once again thank all of my panelists. And without further ado, I'm told that tea is served now. So I'd like to
I'll just take on from here. Sure. And I have the privilege of inviting Lahore Human Resource Forum Senior Management Committee, Mr. Wasif Wasim from Coca-Cola Beverages,